and they are in a better position to deliver services because of the remoteness from the main areas. And you need better infrastructure and service delivery, and you need to strengthen human resource development through health and education, and improve GDP through public service excellence, and open and transparent and accountable government. Reduce crime and corruption to help private sector to contribute to economic growth, and sustainable and equitable development, enhance living standards and quality of life. Inclusive citizen participation in governance, that is what this program aims at. And MDGs, failures, and key lessons for meeting the SDGs. PNG happens to be one of the 3 countries that didn't meet any of the MDGs, and the other 2 countries were Sudan and Afghanistan. And I don't think PNG falls in that cadre. So finally, a big thank you for the ACE Awards Committee for recognizing for the first time a government-run program for this award, because it is going to encourage other governments to strive for excellence. And the Wantak newspaper team for nominating us, and Honorable Marape, the PNG Minister for Finance, for political will to support the program, and to Dr. Nangan, Secretary Gope NGDO, for his leadership, commitment, and support. These 2 gentlemen were replaced in 2014, and that is when all the initiatives started. So you clearly need political will and leadership to support any good anti-corruption programs in any country. And it can happen from the ground level, or it can happen from the top level too. To UNDP ACPACE initiative for funding the Scale-Up program, to Goa PNG DOF team at IICD and PCAB for supporting this program, and UNDP PNG country office team for their support, and a big thank you for the PNG citizens and all partners and stakeholders for trusting this program and participating in it. Thank you.
We have the convening power to bring heads of government and organizations together to help fight corruption. This is the aim of Ghanaian anti-corruption expert Dr. Roger Koranteng, to bring nations and organizations that were once fighting corruption alone together, pooling resources and expertise to end the scourge of corruption and remove its corrosive effects on society. Dr. Koranteng is also the principal specialist responsible for public sector governance and anti-corruption at the Commonwealth Secretariat. He has responsibility for governance, anti-corruption, democratic and oversight institutions in all the 52 Commonwealth countries. His work centers on developing countries in Africa, Caribbean, Pacific, and Asia regions. Dr. Koranteng is the lead trainer and governance and anti-corruption advisor for the Africa Commonwealth Secretariat, and used his position to bring together the heads of African anti-corruption officers to peer review anti-corruption initiatives, set performance benchmarks, and exchange best practices. A bilateral information sharing agreement between Ghana and Nigeria is a direct result of the work spearheaded by Dr. Koranteng.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And I would like to thank the organizers, all the organizers, for making it possible for me to be here again. Again, because this is not the first time I've been in this institute. If you mention about anti-corruption in the Commonwealth, a population of about over 2 billion, every continent is represented, every language is represented. One name will be very, very obvious, and the name is Roger. I've been in these premises to deliver a lot of lectures in the past on corruption, bringing all the Commonwealth anti-corruption agencies, reps across all the continent in this room. So I'm very familiar with this. So I thank you for being here this ceremony. I'm going to take you to a walk through my story as to when I got into the Commonwealth Secretariat. So I'm going to look at the presentation, the structure of the presentation. I'm going to look at the Association of Commonwealth Africa Anti-Corruption Agencies. Then I'll look at the Commonwealth Africa Anti-Corruption Center. Then I'll look at the Commonwealth Caribbean Association of Integrity Commissions and Anti-Corruption Bodies, and some research and publications that I've done. So my anti-corruption work in the Commonwealth Secretariat centered around 3 areas. The three-pronged approach has to do with creating networks and community of practitioners, of course, anti-corruption commission of community of practitioners. Then also centered around capacity building, and then research and publication. The aim of all this is to strengthen the anti-corruption agencies' capacity to deliver on their mandate. Because at the end of the day, if the anti-corruption agencies are not able and are not capable, there's no way they can lead the fight against corruption. I must also recognize Mr. Abu Kasim, who also have brought all the Commonwealth anti-corruption agencies to him in this area at the time that he was the head before his appointment. We wanted to invite him, but before we realized he has also been, I wouldn't say pushed out or left office. So that is some of the problem I have with my anti-corruption heads. So in terms of background, what happened was that I got into the Commonwealth Secretariat in 2008. But before then, I was a lecturer. I taught at the University of Birmingham in England, and then I decided to go home in Africa, Ghana, to help. But long before then, I was in Ghana for just under 1 year. Then I got an appointment at the Commonwealth Secretariat, so I came back to London. When I got there, what did I do? I started looking at in-country collaborations, approaches. And in this case, I was looking at how can I help all these Commonwealth countries to fight corruption, one person dealing with all this continent. So what I did is that I started mobilizing the institutions and other stakeholders involved in monitoring, detecting, responding to corruption-related issues. Now, following a number of years of doing this work, particularly helping member countries to implement their national anti-corruption policies. Because what I realized that World Bank, UNDP have given a lot of money for all these agencies and countries to develop national anti-corruption strategy, but all of them were left in the shelf. There was no implementation, there was no enforcement. So my first point of action was to help to implement this. After that, then I started scratching my head. What can I do? So I decided that in order to maximize my budget, which I cannot deal individually with all the countries who are, at the time were about 54, I decided to have a regional strategy. So in 2011, I decided to invite all the heads of Commonwealth Africa anti-corruption agencies to a conference in Botswana. At the time, my main idea was to form an association or a network. Because why did I do that? I realized that I was sending consultants to all these countries to go and help them to deal with the corruption. But it was not working. Why? Because the consultants were foreigners. They didn't understand the local landscape, the culture, the language, the way they do things. In fact, the context. So they were not able to make any headway. Then I scratched my head. I said, what kind of thing can I do? Then I realized that, in every continent, you're going to have countries who are doing far better than others, even though they are all confronted with the same challenges. So if countries in the same environment can do better, then why don't I bring them together so that those who are doing well will teach those who are not doing well in their own culture's language because they are in the same environment. So that's what I did. So I brought all the African heads of anti-corruption agencies together, and the direct result of that was that I created the Association of Anti-Corruption Agencies, inaugurated by the president of Botswana, who has a huge political will to support corruption efforts. At the time, we decided to institutionalize it. So every year, we're going to meet in various countries. So since 2011, we have met in different countries: Botswana, Zambia, Mauritius, Ghana, Tanzania, Namibia, Malawi, Nigeria this year. Next year, we are meeting in Uganda. Now, the main idea was that we want to share best experiences and best practices. And we also invite international experts to come share ideas with the heads. So we brought Transparency International, who've been doing the rankings, to demonstrate how they do the ranking to the heads. We expect Francis Vogel, who is co-founder of Transparency International, and important people like that. The idea is to share experiences and best practices. When we go to the meeting, it's not a conference per se, it's a review meeting. Every country will have to present innovative way they have developed to fight corruption in their country, and they will share it among their peers. Now, each of them, after the presentation, each country will be asked to select which presentation you like most, that you want to go and learn more after the conference. And then you go back to your country to implement the same and come and share the experiences the following year we meet. So it was like a healthy competition among the heads to show innovative ideas so that countries will select your presentation. In fact, we have able to increase and our transparency perception rankings on the continent. So in terms of some of the outcomes, we signed a lot of MOUs to further the collaboration. So like Mauritius have signed a lot of MOUs with other countries. Ghana, Nigeria signed some MOUs, which the clip also showed. We also built solidarity because, you see, some of the anti-corruption agencies, as you know, if you hear their stories, like the Nigeria and other places, it's a very terrible thing. So they need to form a solidarity to support one another in terms of when you are confronted with hostile domestic environment. We also have able to sustain the association because some of the things is that all the heads always participate fully in the association activities. And they all pay their own fares to come to the association. Now, association is voluntary. So for us to get 100% participation, that means they get something beneficial. Otherwise, nobody will waste their time there. But since 2011, it has always been fully participated. So this positive trend is reflected by the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index, in which the top 10 of the least corrupt countries in Africa are all Commonwealth countries. And none of the bottom down is a Commonwealth country. So that means that we are able to at least show some results by the act. The next point I want to make is the establishment of the Commonwealth Africa Anti-Corruption Center. At the second meeting, I did a needs assessment of all the heads of the Commonwealth Africa Anti-Corruption agencies. And the needs assessment, the results was that all of them lack capacity. Capacity in prevention, capacity in investigation, capacity in prosecution, capacity in public administration, public education, lack of capacity in monitoring evaluation. So what am I going to do with this? So what I decided was that I have to find a training center for them. But I didn't have money. So what I told them was they should go back and conspire with their government and see if any of them, any government, will be prepared to host a training center for the anti-corruption agencies in Africa. In fact, I received 3 nominations. The Gambia, interesting, Gambia didn't have even an anti-corruption agency, but yet they wanted to host a training school there. But anyway, that's by the way. Then Botswana, then Mauritius. I look at the proposal and I selected Botswana because Botswana, the president was an anti-corruption crusader. So I personally went to him and sat with him and negotiated hard. I drove a hard bargain. I said, Mr. President, I needed an office, 5 staff, paid, a training facility. If you can give me that, I'll establish the center here. He looked at me and said, young man, I'll give it to you. I said, thank you, Your Excellency. Then I went back to my secretariat, my Secretary General. I said, look, I've gotten this from the Botswana government. What I need is money to run the center. He said, what is your budget? I said, it's 250,000 every year. I need 4 years. So 1 million. He said, Roger, you got it. So with that, I have got a training center going. I developed an MOU between the Commonwealth Secretariat and that of the Botswana government. And the day, that was 25th February 2013, the training center, Commonwealth Anti-Corruption Training Center, was launched in Botswana, Gaborone. And the 2 representatives, the Deputy Secretary General of Commonwealth and the Vice President of Botswana signed the agreement. The agreement was simple. The Commonwealth Secretariat will commit £1 million to the center and they will pay up to 250,000 per year for an initial period of 4 years to cover activities and programs. The Botswana government will commit an in-kind contribution of 5 fully paid staff, office accommodation, a provision of a training facility. So their contribution, if you commit it into cash, it will be about £150,000 per year. And then the heads of the anti-corruption agencies will sponsor their staff to come to the center, to come and assess the program. So we had the center going. Of course, the goal of the center was to reduce corruption, but specifically was to build capacity in all the areas: prevention, investigation, prosecution, monitoring, evaluation, and all that. Operationalization of the center. I've got the money, I've got the center, I've got staff. I've thought my work was done. I went back to London in my office to concentrate on other regions. We launched the center in February. In August, I received a letter from the Botswana government through the Secretary General of the Commonwealth that get Roger to come back to Botswana. Why? He said the center is there, nothing is happening. I said, why? So I had to go back to Botswana, stay there for 3 months, and operationalize the center. Register the center, call for donor conference, I brought UNDP, World Bank, Basel Institute, Transparency International, name them. How are you going to help me to run the center? I need international resource person, free of charge. And that's what I got from them. So I ran the program, and after 3 months, I went back when it was rolling. I went back to my office in London. But every month, I have to travel to Botswana to go and deliver programs and make sure that it is running. And I always got resource persons free of charge from all the international donor agencies. One of the innovative things I did at the center is that, based on my teaching experience, I realized that if you train people 1 week and you leave them, before you check, they've gone for another training there, another training there, another training there. So when do you assess whether they've built capacity or what they've learned they have applied? So here, what I did is that I will hold the participants who come to the training for 1 year. 1 year, you come for 3 interventions of 1 week each. The first week, you come we're giving you the knowledge, the skills, but we're giving you a project to take home. And that project you have to go and implement and give us report and feedback. Once you get that, we will invite you for the second phase after a quarter. You come, the second phase, you present your project, we all discuss as a group, each of them, and then you go back, complete after 3 months, you come for the final phase. So in that case, by the time you finish, we know that what you have taught you, you've applied because we have evidence of your feedback and your report. And that is how the center has been running up to now. So we have partnership, as I've mentioned, with UNODC, African Development Bank, all those agencies. They've been helping us, Transparency International, City of Police in London, and a whole lot that I've been contacting, and they come in to help run programs in the center. In terms of achievement, the Commonwealth decided to have an independent evaluation, and the results was very interesting. The result was that 65 anti-corruption agencies reps found that at least 80% considered the CAC, that is Commonwealth Africa Anti-Corruption Center courses, had significant expanded their knowledge. 70% reported significant improvement in their ability to perform their current job. And at least 68% reported making significant changes in their work after returning from the center courses. So it means in terms of achievement, we have done extremely well at the center. In terms of the sustainability, if you look at the enthusiasm at which the anti-corruption agencies participate in the programs, it tells me that they are very, very committed to it. One of the things also did was that I asked each of the agencies to pay subscription fee. And the subscription fee, since I instituted it, as at to date, I've able to mobilize $250,000 US, and it's still growing because that money, I have not touched it. They pay and I put in an escrow account. So long as I can raise money, I want to build that fund for future. Say against the rainy day. When I don't have any funding or emergency, then we can still use that money. But for now, I'm just growing that amount for the association and for the center so that they can continue to operate long after I've left the Commonwealth. Based on the success of the Commonwealth Africa experience, I moved to Caribbean and I repeated the same thing. I mobilized the heads of the anti-corruption agencies in Caribbean. They call the anti-corruption agencies integrity commissions. So in 2015, I brought all of them together and formed the association in Grenada. And then they meet annually as we've been doing in Africa. So in Grenada, they met in 2015. Trinidad and Tobago 2016, Jamaica 2017, Turks and Caicos 2018. And the Cayman Islands is next year meeting. And I'm repeating the same innovative model I did for Africa in the Caribbean. In terms of the training center, again, I've negotiated with the Grenada government, who have given me the same thing Botswana government did in terms of training. So we're working with them to also train the Caribbean anti-corruption agents in the training center in Grenada. I myself, because I'm a facilitator, I'm a trainer and a lecturer, and I've combined theory and practice. Because if I were in the academia, I was an associate professor. Now I'm in the Commonwealth Secretariat doing practical things, so I know that there's a difference between theory and practice. As at now, since I've been in the Commonwealth Secretariat for over 10 years now, I've delivered over 250 anti-corruption capacity development across the whole Commonwealth countries, including Malaysia here, so many times in Singapore, Sri Lanka, everywhere, Caribbean, Pacific, and everywhere. I've delivered all these capacity building programs because I realized that with capacity developed, the skills and knowledge, they can do they can fight the corruption wherever it is. But if you want them to fail, don't capacitate them. In terms of research, I also...
Sorry, we have to close because the president is coming. The
Oh,
Prime
okay.
Minister is coming, please.
All right. So let me say, I would like to just say in terms of research, I also do research. The last book I've just released is Tackling Corruption in Africa. And I think it's a good book that we want to say. So in conclusion, I would say that we demonstrated commitment to fight corruption.
Innovations and an entire professional life devoted to the development, capacity building, and training and coordination, support to the Commonwealth Country Secretariat. You are a great colleague. I have been working in the United Nations for so many years. I know what is involved, and therefore I think that we all admired what you have been doing, as well as a small thing with the telephone, what impact can have in the local population in Papua New Guinea, and of course our best wishes, so that it does not continue to remain with those other two countries that you have just mentioned. Okay, we all know the importance of development and of further progress. And finally, I think that I have to close the meeting by simply saying that this is the first occasion, as I mentioned before, in which the ceremony of the award was followed by a seminar of this kind. We do hope that in the future we can follow this model. We do hope that our friend Brian, together with Fernanda, can work together to prepare the ground for a very successful meeting in Mexico next year for the award there. And I would like to take this occasion, this is now the third ceremony, if the younger one of this side, our dear friend from Mexico and Liberia, would start contacting all and be in touch, not only with the champions and the winners of this session, of this year, but also with the previous one, in order to start having a coalition of winners to help us and to help the international community to have a more effective action against corruption. And with this, I think that I declare this meeting adjourned, thanking our host for the great hospitality and thanking again the Center for the Rule of Law and the Center for Integrity here for having taken this initiative. Thank you, and remain there seated.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the organizers, we take this opportunity to thank Dr. Eduardo Vitere for moderating this afternoon session, and the recipients of the Innovation Award, Phones Against Corruption of Papua New Guinea, represented by Mr. Apala Saripali and Dr. Roger Coranting of Ghana, for sharing with us their knowledge, ideas, and experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we take this opportunity to congratulate the recipients and anti-corruption heroes who are here today to share their inspiring stories with us in Malaysia. We are proud to host you and this significant event here at the Malaysian Institute of Integrity. Thank you.